Hi guys, my name's Mai. Today we're going to talk about World War I, Part 3. Okay, so this is Part 3. Part number 3. Part 3. Okay, so first we're going to talk about rules. So, you know what rules are. Those little annoying things you have to do at home or at school. Yeah, it's like you wash your hands before dinner. That's a rule. Okay, but war had a huge impact on the citizens' homes. Because they were smashed, they were crashed, they were bombed, until they were nothing but one brick. Yep. And so, soon after war, there was a parliament called Defense of the Realm Act. This gave the government a new power to control every aspect of life. It even limits how much alcohol you can buy. Let's say 25 milliliters, which is about this bottle. Yes. Every single aspect of life. So, the government also had a new power to control information about war, and there were no reporters allowed on the war scene. Although at first there was one that recorded the process of the war, but even then it must be checked and approved by the government, so that the enemy don't find it very useful. For example, if they say, our plan is to go to America and destroy everything there with vessels and stuff, then they will think, oh, so we'll get more powerful weapons and kill them. That makes it very useful for the enemy, so that's why it must be banned. Okay. So, the Royal Navy caused a blockage in the North Sea. So this is the North Sea. They caused a blockage right here with the door to the entrance. And any merchant vessels that were going to Germany, cargoes has to be checked immediately and very thoroughly indeed. Yes. Their plan is to starve the enemy to death, like no food. So this is their normal supply of food, but then there was none left. So then, so they hope to starve the enemy to surrender. And then the British people trust their navy, because they have the biggest navy in the world at that time, to keep them safe. But on December 1914, the Germans broke through and shelled the coastal towns of Scarborough, Whitby, and Hartlepool. The attack left 137 people dead and many more wounded. Just 1 month later, 2 Zeppelins bombed the city below and killed 4 people. It's a very small amount, but bombs aren't the type that destroys everything in its path like our days. It's just small bombs, and there are not many people in the streets down below because most of them have been going to fight through war. And so, yep, they killed 4 people. Now, I know that sometimes woman life is not easy. Because those days women aren't able to vote, to go on to be a celebrity. Even nowadays, we have never got a woman to be the president of the United States. Never have a woman stepped on stage and gave the speech that presidents usually do. So, Women are underestimated those days. They weren't even allowed to do some jobs that men are always allowed to do. Very underestimating. I don't know what got to the head of those people. But then, as more men were working and shooting at the front line and eating not really delicious food, there was no one to produce food and equipment for them. So then, women got to work. It's a very tiring time for a woman. Yes, women got to work on May 1915. Well, lots of soldiers says that there's a shortage of shells and there are many duds that fail to explode. So, this shell scandal, as it became known, caused the government to rethink a little bit. And so, thousands of women were working in the factories handing out dangerous chemicals that turned their skin yellow and caused the other soldiers to call them canaries because of the yellow skin. Not very nice. As I said, things are looking pretty grim for women. Never underestimate the power of them. Oh, okay, but then things got better and more advanced, so I guess it's still fair to say that women are okay. Now we're going to start a journey to Gallipoli. But first, what is the spark that caused the journey? Let's see. On 16th March 1915, 16 battleships from French and British thrust into narrow straits. And then 2 British ships struck mines and sank, and others were bombed and sank. And minesweepers were sent for, but they are attacked and sank. Yes, everything sank. Now the Allies had 2 options. One is to retreat and one is to invade Gallipoli, where the Germans live. Yeah, as a matter of fact. So the invasion was ordered. Under siege. So, misery in Gallipoli. So on April 25th, 17,000 soldiers from Anzac, it's not really a country, it's just the Australian and some other countries, joined the British and French into attacking Gallipoli. But even before they went there, the Turks set fire before their trenches. And before the soldiers even reached the shore, thousands of soldiers had died. And the sea was said to run red with blood, like here. Yes, and everything was terrible and blah, blah, blah. And then those who survived had to bear the heat of the summer. Flies contaminated the soldiers' food, which, if it wasn't worse enough, was bread and water every day. And there are not just 3 meals, there was just 1 meal per day. And so, in the winter months, the soldiers suffered from both frostbite and pneumonia. In case you don't know what frostbite is, it's like if your body gets too cold, then it will block some places of blood from some place, like your fingers and toes and ears or some parts, and then those places rot and die so that the warm blood can be provided to other places. Well, it's a life-saving strategy, but you lose a pinky or 2 or 3. There's no such thing as 3 pinkies on one person, but then on November, the Allies admitted defeat and began the task of withdrawing their men, which they had lost 50,000 men in the process, and had very little show for it. So, now, under siege. That was the mistake from last time, but then, so the defeat at Gallipoli was a huge blow to British pride. Yeah, you know what pride is. The thing that you're proud of. To have pride isn't a bad thing, but then sometimes it's just too strong and it leads to horrible defeats. just like shown here. So now the army people don't look to the outskirts of the city anymore. No, they advanced north, up here. They advanced north, and so they went to the capital of Baghdad. So 9,000 soldiers went to Baghdad and fight, but then they had to retreat. Then they retreated to the city of Kutal Amara, which is a very dusty city. So the Turks immediately surrounded the area, and food, stuff weren't able to pass to the soldiers. Some soldiers were able to get their hands on dead horses, contaminated dogs, dead rabbits, and every part of stuff, and also some dead people. Ew. Like if someone from your army has just died, then you eat them. Bro, that's gross. But then they have to do it for survival. And in the end, they had to surrender, or else there will be no food. The heat and disease will be unbearable. And then half of the 8,000 soldiers who had survived the torture of the Kutal Amara died on their exhausting march to the prison camps of the Turks. Now, we're going to talk about stalemate. You know what it means? Like, it means that in the battle, there's no fresh tactics, there's nothing, no great breakthroughs, and everything is just at silence. And you'll think, oh, so what do we do now? So you just fight, but you have no strategy to fight it with. And you just keep thinking, is this for nothing? Yes. And then, stalemate. On spring 1915, there was no great breakthroughs from either team. British knew that soldiers who leave their trenches were easy targets. And so the commander, the commanders lost contact with their soldiers because, you know what? That's because that the trenches are so twisting and narrow, along with wires, electric wires, and spikes and stuff to keep the enemy from reaching there. So the commanders did not know the progress of the battle. So in September 1915, the Allies attacked the Germans at Loos. Yeah, Loos with an L on top, like this. Not zoos or whatever. It's Loos, and I don't know why is it called that either. Yes, and they release gas. However, but before they started attacking, so they released a poisonous gas to drip over the German trenches, and then the gas changed direction in the wind, so they burned and choked the Allies, which are the attackers, and they were beaten back to their trenches within days. So there was a new strategy to win this World War called attrition. They would grind the Germans with more shells, more troops, and more attacks until they are too exhausted to fight. But there was a high price for this strategy: the lives of a million men. Yes? Now, the last branch, sea battle. Yes, this looks really, really ancient, and it does not look like any kind of sea battle thing, but then it is. Sea battle. And so at the start of war, British had expected a huge naval war with the Germans, but the warships were expensive to build, and the two countries did not want to lose them in the big sea battle. So everything just went as normal. The Germans were trapped in their navies by the British ships. So on January 1916, Reinhard Scheer took the Germans to sea, and they sent radio waves about their plans. And then, so the British picked them up and told the plan to John Jellicoe, Admiral John Jellicoe, and he decided to take a risk because if the British have nothing to hold on to the North Sea, they will be completely vulnerable. And so eventually the British wins and chased the Germans off. They had lost 2 battleships along with 15 cruisers. Although the Germans only lost 1 battleship and 10 cruisers, well, the Germans still got hold of the North Sea after all. What will happen next? Nobody knows. So, thank you for hearing and listening to this presentation. And I hope that you have learned a lot more about World War I. And keep up with me so that you can get into the part 4. Thank you for listening. Goodbye.